democratic services, and I could not have done without them. They are supporting me. Therefore, would like to ask my consort to hand over my show of respect to give flower to our democratic service. A bunch of flower. First, to give the flower to come to Elizabeth. Anthony. Chief Executive, you have to do more work. Democratic Service, Mari. Finally, I want to give thank you the two cadet union leaders who brought today, and they put a lot of effort. Angela from Hove. Matt. Commander, thank you for your effort for the whole year. And I want to express Robbie. Robbie was one of the tools who never been left. I'm ready. Robbie is in my door. So I never have to give apologies to any engagement anywhere. That is, I want to declare to you. So I want to congratulate Robbie and give flower and wish you good luck. Councillors, it has been a great time working with you all and made memories for every full council. Thank you for being wonderful and mindful during my full council meetings. You haven't made any noise in my time. All security members must thank you for looking after the building security. I choose my Imam Uthman from Al Modina Mosque as my chaplain, and he has been so kind during my term to conduct full council prayer, and also Ahmad from Dyke Road Mosque, who step up to cover when they need it. And I would like to now hand over the show of appreciation certificate to both of them. Now, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Amanda Grimshaw also covered some engagement. So I would like to show my respect and give thank yous to. Yeah, may I have a flower for Deputy Mayor?
The cracky one.
Finally, I would like to thank you to my consort for being supportive and playing very active role. And she was serving with charm and care. I was fair when I left her alone in the shop on my duty, but she was brave enough in the city to look after her because she said, your duty is first, then you will look after me. So I truly appreciate her effort and contribution, what she takes it very seriously to support me. And therefore, truly, she earned her commemorative badges. So I would like to hand over now commemorative badges. Now we move on. Item number 6, the election of mayor. I would like to call Councillor Sankey to nominate the mayor of 2025 to 2026. You got 5 minutes, Councillor Sankey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I rise to propose Councillor Amanda Grimshaw as the next Mayor of Brighton and Hove. Though not born in the city, she is the essence and living embodiment of a Brightonian. Amanda moved to the city as a child, and knowing her as I do, I can understand why Amanda and Brighton and Hove are such a perfect match. She has a heart the size of the Royal Pavilion, whose history she is a world-leading authority on. She is as colourful and camp as a Brighton Pride street party. She has the passion of a typical Seagulls fan, and throughout her life, she has dared to be different, to champion the underdog, and to challenge the status quo. Amanda has lived in every corner of the city. She knows intimately so many of our communities, and she has knowledge of so many of our services. Her work ethic is second to none, and she has dedicated her life to the betterment of Brighton and Hove people. Especially close to her heart is the advancement of working class people, a class of which, as she reminds me, most days, she is a loud and proud member. Amanda is also, as she regularly reminds me, a lifelong learner, and her love of history is infectious. Training as a history teacher, she graduated from the University of Sussex, and she has been learning and educating ever since. She conducted her own research into the Battle of Boar's Head, bringing new understanding about the working class boys from Poets' Corner who signed up together to fight and paid the ultimate price. Her mind is constantly buzzing, making connections, always on the go, helping someone in need, and for the last 2 years, keeping the Labour group in check and on the road, and throughout her life, developing a strong sense of personal integrity that guides her. In her role as Armed Forces champion, she does the hard graft behind the scenes, planning, strategizing, and above all, delivering better support and services for our veterans and careful and compassionate advocacy on their behalf. In her role, Amanda supports veterans, reservists, and cadet units. She has promoted the Armed Forces Covenant, securing commitments from organisations such as Brighton and Hove Buses, and Brighton and Hove Museums Trust, and she's led on key events such as Armed Forces Day and most recently the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Amanda has led on the Council's application for Gold Award status under our Armed Forces Covenant Employer Recognition Scheme, and she's played a key role in establishing the Brighton and Hove Veterans Group, including organising regular monthly breakfasts for veterans at the station pub. Amanda is not for the faint-hearted. Am I right? My first real interaction with her was a blazing row about a political matter. Not knowing anyone else quite like Amanda, I assumed that this row meant we wouldn't be close and we wouldn't work well together. How wrong could I be? Amanda conducted further research about the issue we had had a row over, came to see me with it, we both learned from the exchange, and I realised that she is a truth seeker above all else. And though not perfect, as none of us are, she lives by her values and seeks fairness and equality above all else. From that day on, though there are still sometimes rows, I have appreciated her deeply and learned from her frequently. Amanda is a survivor of domestic abuse and she is a fighter. She is also a deeply loving mother, grandmother, and friend to many. Her mayoral charities reflect the compassionate and well-rounded person she is, supporting All Sorts, the charity for LGBTQI+ and gender questioning young people, Brighton Women's Centre, an institution in the city and an early pioneer of the women's movement and political philosophy, Hove and Ada Sea Cadets, reflective of her reverence of and support for our services, and the Rocking Horse Children's Charity that does such vital work for our children in the city and region. I couldn't be prouder to nominate Councillor Amanda Grimshaw, BEM, as the Mayor of Brighton and Hove.
Thank you, Councillor Sankey. Are there any other nominees? Are there any other nominations? Sorry, Councillor Hears. He will be seconded.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm surprised that I was invited back to speak after last year, but I'm sure that your deputy wasn't a nightmare. Luckily for Councillor Grimshaw, I only have 3 minutes this time, so I have to keep the compliments and niceties to a minimum.
Okay.
Now, this has been a day marked in the diary ever since Labour Group nominated Amanda to become our nominee for Deputy Mayor back in February of last year. The days have slowly been counting down to what I've been told is the pinnacle of and the privilege of a councillor's time in office. A whole year of liberation and freedom, waking up each morning, looking forward to the day ahead without any dramas or pending catastrophes to face. I'm really looking forward to having a year-long break from Amanda in the ward.
Still fine.
In all seriousness, I know that this has been something that Amanda has been looking forward to, and she'll be a brilliant first citizen and ambassador of our city. Along with Councillor Bagoff, we are proud that Amanda is going to be the first mayor from Hangleton and Knoll since the deeply missed Brian Fitch. I know that Amanda intends to undertake many of her mayoral duties and events in the ward, so maybe I won't be having that much of a break from her after all. Amanda will be a great representative for her chosen mayoral charities, as mentioned, Brighton's Women's Centre, Rocking Horse, Hove and Ada Cadets, and All Sorts, charities which I know are close to her and the residents in the city, and they will be appreciative of the funds raised. Amanda will embrace all of the duties and traditions that come with being mayor. One of them, which has been great to see the return of, is the formal portrait, which will be displayed in Brighton Town Hall, like we have recently of you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if I should be disclosing this today, but a bit of an exclusive for the press. I can reveal that I've been commissioned to paint it. But though I can't even pull the curtains, I'm sure I'll do a great job and really capture a great likeness of Amanda, which will be framed and displayed for all eternity. You'll be a fantastic mayor, Amanda. When you aren't scaring or terrifying us, you are warm and personable, and this will be reflected in your role as mayor where you will be a friend to everyone in our city. It is a pleasure to second your nomination, comrade. Oh, and if you receive any VIP tickets to the football, I'll happily go as your guest.
Are there any nominations? Councillor Pickett, you want to speak?
Thank you.
You
Firstly,
got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Grimshaw on behalf of the Green Group. I'm sure you're going to do a fantastic job. We know you as an amenable and experienced person, and you seem to know absolutely everyone, which is pretty helpful in this kind of job. I'm sure you'll do as good a job as Councillor Duserman has done. He's been excellent, and yeah. So, however, I would like to take this opportunity to express our dissatisfaction with the current process of choosing a new mayor. Essentially, this role is non-political, and the mayoralty is a symbolic representation of the council at events and in and around the city. In the past, this role has alternated between groups in what has seemed a fair and democratic way until now. All councillors within this chamber have been elected by the people of the city, and we are a mix of political persuasions. Therefore, can the administration be more respectful of the tradition of the mayor and reassess the supposed need to only choose mayors from the Labour group? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pickett. Your contribution have all been noted. Does the council agree to appoint Councillor Amanda Grimshaw as Mayor of Brighton and Hove for the forthcoming municipal year? So, Councillor, can I ask you to show of hand in this council chamber?
In favour.
In favour of Councillor Amanda Grimshaw will be Mayor of Brighton and Hove. Yeah. You can put you down now, hand. Anybody against? Any abstain? Thank you. I hereby declare Councillor Amanda Grimshaw duly elected as the Mayor of Brighton and Hove for the forthcoming municipal year 2025 and 2026. May I offer you my congratulations to new Mayor of Brighton and Hove. I shall now adjourn the meeting for a short period of time in order for the new mayor to be robed and return to the chamber to then reconvene the meeting. And can I ask councillor and guests remain seated during the short adjournment?
I, Councillor Amanda Grimshaw, BEM, having been elected to take to the office of Mayor of Brighton and Hove, declare that I take that office upon myself and will dutifully and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, colleagues, family and friends, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today to share in this special moment and to witness my inauguration as Mayor. And thank you to the Brighton and Hove and Ada Sea cadets for supporting this ceremony in Royal Naval terms. To be piped in is truly an honour. Thank you so much. I would like to sincerely thank Councillor Sankey and Councillor Hewitt for nominating me and supporting me, and for their kind words, including the ribbing, which I knew was coming and I thought was very enjoyable. I am also deeply grateful to the officers for their invaluable assistance in helping me prepare for today. My heartfelt thanks goes to my colleagues in the Labour group for placing their trust in me to serve as Mayor, who truly represents our wonderful city of Brighton and Hove. Now, I would like to turn the clock back to 1977. Queen Elizabeth celebrated her Silver Jubilee, Roger Moore was James Bond, and Jim Callaghan was PM. And I was just 12 years of age, living in Burnage in Manchester. And my parents had announced that we would be leaving and heading 277 miles south to Brighton and Hove. Brighton and Hove, it might as well have been the moon. The name was only familiar to me from the Saturday afternoon football results on the television. Brighton and Hove Albion 3, Newcastle United 1, and promotion to the First Division. Fast forward to a sunny Saturday in July, we arrived at our new home, a ground floor flat on Grand Avenue, where my dad had taken a job as a caretaker. The sun was shining, the air was warm, and everything felt new and full of possibility. And as we looked out of the still curtainless windows onto Grand Avenue, an early pride float was stationed outside, a burst of colour, music and joy. And the image is etched in my memory, vivid, unforgettable, a sight I had never seen before. My dad caught sight of a striking young man dancing with his back turned slightly, full of energy and confidence, and he was wearing chaps. I don't think I need to describe his reaction in detail, except to say he immediately turned to my mum and said, "Go and buy some bloody curtains." But for me, that moment marked the beginning of something special, my lifelong love affair with Brighton and Hove. The big question we are all asked is, were you born here? To be considered a true Brightonian, it often seems you need to have been born, raised or educated here. Well, I wasn't born here, but 47 years later on, I'm still here, more enchanted and more in love with this city than ever. So here is my Brighton test criteria. If it strikes any chords with any of you, please give a little shout. I've worked for Brighton institutions like Legal & General, American Express and the Midland Bank. I've been eating Uncle Sam's All-Star Burgers since 1980. I was a student at Knoll Girls' School, studied at the White Hawk Inn and later at the University of Sussex. I've had loved ones born and passed away at the Royal Sussex County Hospital. I've paddled in the sea and cursed the pebbles. I've spent days out on the Palace Pier and screamed my way through the ghost train. I even got chased by skinheads during the mod revival. Seagulls have stolen my chips more times than I care to admit, and I've danced on Sherry's famous sprung floor. I visited the market diner at 3 a.m. in the morning, dazzled by the bright lights after closing time, which was always rather a shock. I spent 6 wonderful, fulfilling years walking in the Royal Pavilion, so much so that every time I walk past, I feel like I should have a key to the front door. And I have lived all over this city: Hove, Portslade, Patcham, Hollandbury, Five Ways, Hanover, Elm Grove, back to Portslade, Woodingdean, and yes, more Portslade. And perhaps more importantly, I've been a wife and mother to true Brightonians. It was while I was living in Portslade that I joined the Labour Party. And I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Councillor Alan Robbins, whose inspiration and encouragement led me to take that step. Where are you, Al? You've moved. You're there. And to Hangleton, my ward, my forever home. It's where I spent my teenage years hanging out in St Helens graveyard as a proud Hangleton greenie with Sharon up there. Monthly disco at St George's, youth club in the Hounslow Memorial Church. Back in the day, we'd meet at the Wishing Well. We would go ice skating at Queen Square. I've watched sunsets by the Fisherman's Club, spotted mackerel off the shore, roller skated along the seafront, and even canvassed up Bear Mountain. I've walked home along the seafront after a night out. I missed the Brighton bomb blast by just an hour, and I stood in disbelief as the West Pier burned, or as my mum would say, to disappear. I hope you feel I've earned my stripes to stand here today as the first citizen. To be here today is truly incredible, and I'm immensely proud to stand before you as a working class woman. I began my journey into education later in life, and it gave me the confidence to pursue my full potential. And I hope my story can inspire other women, especially those who feel the path isn't open to them, to believe in themselves and keep going. Life is a learning journey. During my mayoral year, I'm delighted that my family member, Candice Koenig, will be accompanying me. Will be accompanying me on this journey. Candice is the Chief Executive of a Sussex-based charity supporting families whose children are living in long-term or life-limiting conditions. Her courage, dedication and selfless commitment to others is truly unmatched. And I am so looking forward to this year with you. And let's be honest, you also saved the day when none of the kids wanted to do it. I am deeply honoured that Reverend David Hazel, priest in charge of St Helens and St Richard's in Hangleton, has kindly agreed to serve as my chaplain. Father David's ministry lies at the very heart of Hangleton. He has played a significant role in the civic life of our city. Through his presence at armed forces and remembrance events, and I am truly grateful for his wisdom, guidance, thoughtful words, and shared moments of laughter. And I look forward to sharing the year ahead with his support by my side. Thank you, Father David. Since 2023, I've had the privilege of serving as Brighton and Hove City Council's Armed Forces Champion, and I'm deeply committed to supporting our armed forces community, from reservists and serving personnel to veterans and our fantastic cadet units, both within the council and across the wider city. Over the past 2 years, I've also worked to ensure that not only the council, but other key local businesses and organisations have pledged their support through the Armed Forces Covenant. And it is a profound honour that as Mayor, I will lead the city's remembrance commemorations, a responsibility I will hold with great pride and respect. I'm also pleased to confirm the charities that we're working with this year and delighted that they are represented here today. All Sorts Youth Project play a vital role in supporting children and young adults under 26 who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or exploring their sexual orientation and or gender identity, along with their families. The care, understanding and safe speech spaces All Sorts provides ensures that young people feel seen, heard and valued. The support offered by All Sorts is not only extraordinary, it's life-affirming. As First Citizen, a role that is in fact entirely genderless, I am proud to stand in solidarity with organisations like All Sorts that champion inclusion, equality and dignity for all. For 50 years, Brighton Women's Centre has been a lifeline for self-identifying women across Sussex, offering support to those from all walks of life facing a wide range of challenges. Their work empowers women living with chronic conditions, those who have experienced abuse, trauma, poverty, homelessness, or involvement with the criminal justice system, helping them move towards safer, happier lives. As a survivor of domestic abuse myself, I understand firsthand the deep and lasting impact it can have. I have turned to services like those provided by BWC, and I know how essential, life-changing and often life-saving their support truly is. Hove and Ada Sea Cadets offer young people a supportive and inspiring environment where they can grow into the best version of themselves. Through a wide range of activities and adventures, cadets learn vital life skills such as teamwork, respect, loyalty, self-confidence, commitment, self-discipline and honesty, all while building lasting friendships and memories. Like many of our cadet units across the city, Hove and Ada Sea Cadets play an important role in the civic life of Brighton and Hove, proudly taking part in events such as Remembrance Services, Armed Forces Day, and most recently, the VE celebrations. And we're very pleased today to have Brighton Sea Cadets and Hove and Ada Sea Cadets in the chamber with us. Thank you. Rocking Horse is deeply cherished and highly respected charity in our city, dedicated to supporting sick and disabled children and their families across Sussex. As the official fundraising charity for the Royal Alexandra Children's Hospital since 1967, Rocking Horse has helped nearly 1 million children by providing life-saving medical equipment, vital support for families, child-friendly environments, and an additional staff to enhance care. As a counsellor, a mother, and a grandmother, and an aunt, I have witnessed firsthand the remarkable care and compassion Rocking Horse offers during some of the most difficult moments in a child's life, and their work is nothing short of extraordinary. These charities carry out outstanding work both within our city and beyond, and I am truly honoured to be working with them, gaining a deeper insight into their invaluable contributions, helping to promote their efforts across Brighton and Hove, and supporting the crucial fundraising they so urgently need. I'm also delighted to announce that Ed Wills, the Managing Director of Brighton and Hove Buses and Metro Bus, has generously invited the Mayor's charities to be part of this year's Santa Bus Appeal. The Santa Bus is hugely significant, successful fundraising initiative that raises significant sums for local causes each year. Being selected as one of just 12 charities will be a great opportunity and also a perfect platform for us to showcase and support the vital work of each charity. I am so looking forward to joining Ed and Victoria and Ben, who are here this evening representing Brighton and Hove Buses and the Mayor's charities on top of the Santa Bus. I'm also honoured to have my friends and family here today with us in this chamber to mark this occasion. To Joyce, Baroness Gould, my mentor and inspiration since the day I moved to Hangleton, thank you for your unwavering guidance and friendship. To John Cooper, for always looking out for me. And to Sharon, my oldest and dearest friend in Brighton, your friendship means the world. Fiona, my 5-star Fifi, thank you for the years of shared memories. And with Mark, thank you for always opening your home to me when I've needed a place to rest and recharge. And to all the incredible women in my life, thank you for all your support, strength and inspiration throughout my journey. And so many of you women are here in the room today, and you know who you are. Most of all, I want to thank my wonderful family, Emma, Robert, Harry and Melissa, my beautiful grandchildren, Delilah and Jax, and their amazing mum, Georgia. Your love and support mean everything to me. And finally, to the residents of this wonderful city, we are all so proud to call home. You have entrusted me with one of the greatest honours to serve you as your mayor. And as I step into this role, I do so with deep gratitude and a strong commitment to celebrating the remarkable people who made this city so special. Brighton and Hove is filled with individuals who generously give their time, energy and heart to making our community stronger, fairer and more vibrant for everyone. Our city is a shining bright star, and I am blessed to call it home. Thank you. I would like to invite Councillor Sankey to move a formal vote of thanks to Councillor Azudazan as the retiring mayor.
As Mayor, I'm delighted to stand to propose a vote of thanks for our outgoing Mayor, Councillor Mohammed Asaduzzaman. Councillor Asaduzzaman has had a very successful mayoral year. Through his dedication, hard work, and the culture of collaboration and connection he has fostered across the city, he served our residents as their first citizen with distinction. I'd particularly like to pay tribute to the way in which he has sought to build new relationships across the city and wider world, and to extend his warm and unique brand of inclusion to the most marginalised. From hosting unaccompanied asylum-seeking children in the Mayor's Parlour, to speaking at the World AIDS Day Vigil in New Queen Gardens, to travelling to France for the commemoration of the Anglo-Canadian raid last year and gifting a Brighton and Hove Albion shirt to the Mayor of Dieppe. He may have been the mayor, but he was a politician and a diplomat first. To hosting Mayor Ibata from Nagata, Japan in the Mayor's Parlour. His leading role in the Undivided India Gate commemoration, celebrating the contribution of Undivided India soldiers to the First World War effort, is another example of his desire to bring recognition and honour to all of the city's communities and to ensure that we remember the shape and story of our city in an inclusive way. Councillor Asaduzzaman has so many ideas and is full of inspiration. Even in his parting act, he is seeking to forge new traditions as a mayor's legacy, which I know my colleague Councillor Windsor will mention in her remarks shortly. As our first Muslim mayor of South Asian origin, I want to pay tribute to the way that Councillor Asaduzzaman has sought to bring unity and healing at times of strife. In light of international events and tensions, Councillor Asaduzzaman's commitment to serving all faith communities and those of no faith has been exemplary through frequent visits to churches, synagogues, mosques, and other places of worship. Particularly poignant for me was his meeting with the Chief Rabbi last year and his involvement in the Ajax service of remembrance for Jewish service personnel as part of the Remembrance Day event. The pride of our Bangladeshi and wider Muslim community at our mayor's achievements is also very clear to see, as was his presence at various community iftars in the city throughout the month of Ramadan. His dedication has been unwavering. Just earlier this month, he and I attended a migrant mass at St Joseph's at the bottom of Elm Grove, the first migrant mass outside London, hosted here in our city of sanctuary. Councillor Asaduzzaman's energy and commitment is unbounded. He cares deeply about children and young people, demonstrated by the number of school groups he's hosted and the schools that he's visited. In order to ensure that he and his contribution to our city can be memorialised for generations to come, I requested that we brought back the tradition of mayoral portraiture. We unveiled his stunning portrait in Brighton Town Hall earlier this month, and I want to pay tribute to the student artist, Lucy, who has so captured the essence of Councillor Asaduzzaman, his love of Brighton and Hove, and the imprint he has made. In unveiling the portrait, the director from University of Brighton remarked on the research they did on the mayor to develop the artwork, and I was struck by their feedback of the universal high esteem and fondness that Councillor Asaduzzaman commands across the city. I'm pleased that this portrait, which again will make a new creative connection between us and our student artist community, will be hung in Brighton Town Hall. I would also like to pay tribute to Imams Uthman and Ahmed, serving as chaplains over his mayoral year. Finally, I would like to pay particular tribute to the mayor's consort, Mostara. Mostara has been a loyal and dedicated consort, undertaking so many engagements and serving with grace and kindness. She has also provided the most amazing food for several of those engagements that I have attended, at least, putting her enormous skills and generosity into practice for the residents of the city. I'd like to thank you both for all you have done and all that it means to us and our residents.
I would like to invite Councillor Winder to second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm so pleased to second this vote of thanks to our retiring Mayor and to support his proposal to create a meaningful legacy for the future in this outstanding and memorable year of mayoral duty. Each Mayor will bring something special to their role, and their contribution to the city should be celebrated and recorded for the future. Mohammed Asaduzzaman is proposing that his personal legacy should be the following: a tree planted in memory of all who have died of COVID or suffer long-term conditions as a result of COVID. And secondly, a small monument or plaque, an annual community event in recognition of the UNESCO International Mother Language Day, dedicated to promoting linguistic diversity and cultural heritage, a call to action to build a multilingual world. So thank you, Councillor Asaduzzaman, for your huge contribution during the past year. I hope we will see these proposals put in place. Thank you.
We're now going to call upon any other members who may have indicated that they wish to speak, and I believe Councillor Davis has.
Amanda, good evening, welcome, good luck. It is a rare occurrence that I agree with the Legal Council, but I echo all of her words for the outgoing Mayor, and no doubt the kind thoughts of other opposition councillors to follow. And I will keep this brief but very sincere. Mayor Mohammed, Shongi, I wanted to personally congratulate you on your incredibly successful time as Mayor of this great city. Now, clearly I'm no fan of unelected positions and would probably overthrow the monarchy at the drop of a hat, but if we look at your time in office as purely being as our first citizen of Brighton and Hove, then I think you've done an excellent job of being an example of what this great city stands for. Inclusive, welcoming, diverse. Values that are coming increasingly under attack, sadly, from many parts of the political spectrum. Your management of council meetings has been balanced, neutral, but above all, civil and respectful. And myself and my group would like to sincerely thank you for all of your efforts. You've been without a doubt one of my favourite of all mayors in my time as a councillor. You've acted selflessly and with only the best interest of your office and this fabulous city at heart. And I'm certain, inshallah, that the residents of Five Ways and your Labour colleagues will be glad to have you back. So Mayor Mohammed, please excuse my pronunciation, but Onik Donyabad, Shokran, thank you, and Salam Alaikum, sir.
Are any other members wishing to speak? Councillor McNair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Asaduzzaman, Mr. Mayor, we have bumped into each other at many events across the city this year. At Patch Duck Fair, at the Network of International Women, very good food, I have to say. With the Bangladeshi community in Hollingbury, at Ukrainian celebrations and at India Gate. And at the unveiling of your portrait a couple of weeks ago, to name but a few. It has always been a pleasure to see you and the Mayoress. You have been very fair and even-handed in your work in this chamber, and that has been much appreciated. You have set a high standard as first citizen of this city, a role we in the Conservative Party highly value. And we wish you, I wish you, every success in the future.
A formal vote of thanks has been moved. Does the council agree? Could Councillor Azuderman please come forward to receive his commemorative badge for his time in office? I will now move to the appointment of the Deputy Mayor, and I would like to call on Councillor Railkins to nominate the Deputy Mayor for 2025-2026.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had the immense pleasure of getting to know Councillor Galvin probably more than most in this chamber. As one of his fellow ward councillors alongside Councillor Winder, the three of us pounded every street in Hanover and Elm Grove in 2023 as part of the election campaign. Many here will be familiar with the topography of the area, and it is certainly not lost on me that the administration councillor, who is most advanced in years, won his seat deservedly by scaling the steepest hills in the city. And that indeed is testament to the man I'm proposing to you as Deputy Mayor of Brighton and Hove for the coming year. Ty and I are practically neighbours, actually. We live a few minutes apart in the ward that we're both proud to represent. And personally, I've learned many things from him. Nuggets of history from the city and the neighbourhood we share, Labour Party folklore spanning the ages, and so on. There's one thing that I've learned from him that I'm particularly grateful for. Now, obviously, one of the first things you do when you stand for election is you take a few photos. And I remember the first time the three of us posed together. I was to my left, we got into position, all ready to go, looking good. Photographer was ready and indicated they were ready to take the photo. And just as they did, up close in my left here, very quiet but definitely audible, I heard a tiny, almost imperceptible laugh. I didn't think much of it at the time until the next time we were in front of the camera. And sure enough, exactly the same thing. What I realised is that it's actually a technique. A way of ensuring a genuine smile in every photo and a genuine connection with everyone who sees it. And sure enough, every single photo I've seen of him, he looks amazing. Councillor Galvin used to work in the electrical trade, and one of his enduring contributions is that he wired up Brighton's iconic Palace Pier. And for me, there is something of a metaphor there. Like the Palace Pier, Councillor Galvin continues to stand tall and serve our city, no matter how strong the wind or how high the tide. He's fearless, principled, and always looking for that personal connection. He's an indefatigable champion of social justice, and he will do our city proud. As such, I'm delighted to propose him as Deputy Mayor for the coming year.
I would like to invite Councillor Winder to formally second.
Madam Mayor, I formally propose that Councillor Galvin will be nominated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winder. So are there any other nominations? So I believe that Councillor Hill wishes to speak for the Green Party.
Thank you, and peace be upon you, Mayor Grimshaw, and I wish you well on your mayoral year. As Greens, we respect Ty Galvin's work as lead on ageing well, working to ensure older residents in Brighton and Hove are supported to live active, healthy and connected lives. I fully support his work championing building an affordable housing development and health hub at the Brighton General Hospital site. This former workhouse has a lot of history to it, and Ty has been at the forefront of working to a new chapter for the site. Now, I'm sure the Older People's Council will be really pleased with his announcement of being selected as Deputy Mayor. The average age of a person in Brighton and Hove is getting higher, and so with that, we need to adapt our society to meet that shift. Having older people's voices being heard at all levels of our society is part of achieving that. As Vice Chair of the Older People's Council, Ty is well placed to do such a thing. Ty has also pushed for flood prevention on Elm Grove, something that I'm passionate about, as a lot of the water from this flooding comes down into my residence in Park Crescent, and I'm keen to work with him on this and many issues. I think in these times it's important that we recognise that there's more that unites us than divides us, and that's in part why Ceremonial Mayor is so important. It's notable that when we look at how the sort of beautiful work of Councillor Asaduzzaman, there's many different groups that he's met with and something which really reflects the diversity of our city. And I think in these times we need apolitical entities to bring people together, particularly when our government is dividing us against each other and often using groups like immigrants, disabled people, transgender people and intersex people as scapegoats for their own failures. Even with this being the case, I think this is something that unites us in the city, things like this mayoralty. And so in this difficult context, I think we need these institutions not to be owned by any party. And so that has to have support across the political spectrum and with different groups within our city. We want everyone to be able to engage with the mayoralty. And so to have parties and independents sharing that mayoralty would, I believe, help with this. Given how important I feel this mayoralty is, I'm also concerned that Labour will be cutting the allowance for the mayor by half, but we'll get to that discussion later. So we do feel in light of those points that we have to abstain, but yet I think Ty is an excellent fellow and he is somebody who we as Greens have a great respect for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. I move that Councillor Galvin be appointed as Deputy Mayor for Brighton and Hove for 2025-26. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? And any abstentions? It's been carried. I declare Councillor Galvin Deputy Mayor of Brighton and Hove for the forthcoming municipal year 2025-26. Can I now ask Councillor Galvin to come forward to be robed and presented with the Deputy Mayor's badge?
Thank you all. I, Councillor Ty Galvin, having been elected as Deputy Mayor for Brighton and Hove, take this office unto myself and will do that and will duly and faithfully and will duly and faithfully fulfill this duty according to the best of my judgment and ability. Sorry for that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, item 8, is the appointment of the Leader of the Council, and I call upon Councillor Sherd to move the nomination of Councillor Sankey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I congratulate you on your new appointment. I rise today to propose that Councillor Bella Sankey is re-elected to the position of Leader of the Council for the upcoming year. I believe she'll be a good fit to carry on as, according to statements made by some people I've listened to in this chamber, she seems to have achieved the impossible. In the run-up and after the election 2 years ago, we were told over and over again We couldn't expand what goods we can recycle, nor could we introduce food waste collection. Impossible, they said. Yet here we are, with one already done and the second on the way. We heard as well that it would be impossible to set a balanced budget, that we were inevitably going to go bankrupt. Yet here we are delivering on budget 2 years in a row with increased funding to street cleaning and without further raising parking charges in the city. We also heard it would be impossible for someone to carry out the responsibilities of leader of the council without flying to Glasgow. Yet Bella has been all over this country promoting our great city, and not once has she even considered the thought about getting an internal flight. This is not to mention the continuous successes we've managed to implement that weren't impossible, such as the fastest electric car rollout in the country outside of London, introduction of landlord licensing, taking the failure of a Tory government to court and winning, green lighting the Madeira Terrace restoration project, the building of 2 new swimming pools, and the largest rollout of rooftop solar in our council's history. As deputy leader of the LGA, she has helped push for local councils' budgets to increase by over 4%, which means not only can we continue to have money to pay for the debt left by the Greens poll tax on the seafront, but while funding projects such as the Brighton Fairness Fund, the establishment of the mental health pilot in school children, a project, I might add, that has seen a ministerial visit today to see how our ideas can be taken nationwide. This past year, the council has also overseen the rollout of a number of new policies designed to support those who are more vulnerable in our city. These include a new and updated toolkit for schools to help support and uplift our transgender children in an era feeling ever more hostile to their existence. Another is an updated Volk strategy to continue to offer the care and work to prevent this heinous stain on our society. This new Volk strategy once again shows the tireless work towards not only protecting but uplifting women wherever they may be. This while the Greens vote for a leader who believes he can hypnotise women into having bigger breasts. Madam Mayor, I think that says enough. We have also seen the most houses built in the city since 2013. Helping begin to relieve the housing crisis in our city and begin to put an end to the ever-spiralling housing prices that are unaffordable to people in my generation. This contrasting story sort of votes against every major housing application this year. And as if all of that is not enough, we have started to see reforms specifically designed to reverse 14 years of Tory austerity and restart our social mobility once again with projects such as children on free school meals getting preferential choice, helping put 100 pupils this year alone to benefit from what our city can truly offer. This is all within 2 years. Under Bella's leadership, imagine what we can do with another 2. With so much to come, whether that be continuing to fight to get a better deal for the city through our amazing devolution programme, returning power to Sussex, or standing up to hate no matter where it is, like we saw in the protests last year, or perhaps you'll return to completing the impossible, at which point not even the sky's the limit, because we'll probably end up with our own space programme. So, for a chance to see our city reach its full potential, to continue to offer our residents the best deal possible, and for a chance to be the first Brighton North on the moon, I formally nominate Councillor Bella Sankey for leader of Brighton and Hove City Council.
I now call upon Councillor McGregor to second the nomination.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm glad to second Bella Sankey for another year as leader of the City Council. Now, let's be frank, nobody takes on this job for an easy life. But with the first majority council here in nearly 20 years, Bella was walking into a huge job with even bigger expectations. Before 2023, our city was known for bin strikes and embarrassingly limited recycling, and so many projects languishing in development, holding Brighton and Hove back. 2 years later, look at what this administration and Bella has been able to achieve. We're cleaning up this city, both metaphorically and physically. Recycling expanding, the largest rollout of rooftop solar panels, Madeira Terrace getting the restoration it needs and deserves, and that doesn't even start to mention the Fairness Fund. And yes, King Alfred Sports Centre finally moving forward with a completion date on the table. And within days of a Labour government, Bella was in number 10 discussing what our city needed and how we would achieve it. It's a clear sign of trust in Brighton and Hove that we are one of only 6 places on the devolution priority programme. That deal is going to unlock funding for affordable homes, better buses and trains, and real opportunities for skills and jobs. That's the kind of grown-up strategic leadership our city's been crying out for. For me, though, what sets Bella apart is her continual focus on addressing the many inequalities in Brighton and Hove. She often, and with passion, speaks about my ward Whitehawk and the eastern outskirts of the city. We've personally and publicly discussed the inequality faced by many of our residents, and I've watched with admiration of how action has actually followed. As Councillor Shear said, nearly 100 kids on free school meals got a place at a preferred secondary school this year because of reforms we brought in under the Hove leadership. The first in the country to implement a policy like this, which looks to tackle inequality at its root cause. And that's what leadership looks like. Not speeches, not slogans, but actions that lift people up. She stood firm against forced academisation, kept mental health services going when cuts loomed, and frozen parking charges during a cost of living crisis. And while some may look to make headlines with division, Bella has focused on building connections. From defending minority communities when the far right tried to stir hate in our city, to launching a new strategy on violence against women and girls that doesn't leave anyone behind, and in continuing our crucial trans toolkit programme. So while I can't imagine that it's been an easy year for her, I believe she is the best person to stand up for our Labour values and is not afraid to implement change needed to make Brighton and Hove the best it can possibly be. And we're only 2 years into the administration. I'm excited to see where the next 2 years go. So let's keep going, and I look forward to another year with Bella at the helm. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Are there any other nominations? I move that Councillor Sankey be appointed as the leader of the council. Does the council agree? I hereby declare Councillor Sankey has been appointed as leader of Brighton and Hove City Council for the municipal year 2025-26. Congratulations, Bella. Councillor Sankey, would you like to speak?
Just very briefly to say that I'm delighted to have passed that job interview. And thanks everybody for the support. This job is truly the love and the honour of my life. I couldn't be more committed to our city and our residents. The more we do, the more I can see there is to do. So I promise that I will work just as hard in the year ahead, and with all of your support, we will achieve even more for our people here in Brighton and Hove.
Thank you, Councillor Sankey. The next item 9 on the agenda, is to approve and note various appointments. And I move that the appointment of Councillors Rowkin and Taylor as deputy leaders of the council as set out in the agenda be approved. Does the council agree? The next item is to approve the appointment of the leader of the official opposition. As the Green Group has the largest number of members of the minority groups, I propose that Councillor Davies be duly appointed as the leader of the official opposition. Does council agree? The next item is to note the appointment of councillors to the following positions. Leader of the Labour Group, Councillor Bella Sankey. Deputy leaders of the Labour Group, Councillor Tim Rowkins and Councillor Jacob Taylor. Convener of the Green Group, Councillor Steve Davis. Joint Deputy Conveners of the Green Group, Councillors Hill and Goldsmith. Leader of the Conservative Group, Councillor McNair. Deputy Leader of the Conservative Group, Councillors Meadows and Theobald. And I move that the appointment of the councillors to the position as set out be noted. Does the council agree? Item 10 concerns the report to note the appointment of cabinet members by the leaders of the council. I will now call on Councillor Sankey to introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to appoint cabinet members and cabinet advisors for the year ahead. I appoint as deputy leader and cabinet member for finance and city regeneration, Councillor Jacob Taylor. He is known for balancing the budget, launching an economic growth board and a seafront development board. And this year he will be getting to grips with our asset management and unlocking more housing sites for the city. I'm pleased to appoint as co-deputy leader and cabinet member for net zero and environmental services, Councillor Tim Rowkins. He has launched a decarbonisation report. He continues to refurbish and reopen public toilets, and he will be expanding recycling and rolling out food waste in the year ahead. I'm pleased to appoint as Cabinet Member for Communities, Equalities and Adult Social Care, Councillor Michi Alexander. Michi will be working on community cohesion, supporting our vulnerable and ensuring that everyone in our city can live with dignity. I'm pleased to appoint as Cabinet Member for Transport and City Infrastructure, Councillor Trevor Mooton. They call him the councillor that never sleeps. He brings bus fares down, he launches cycle lanes, he rolls out EV charging, and this year he will be visioning a new transport system for the city. Could a tram be on the way? I am pleased to appoint as Cabinet Member for Housing, Councillor Jill Williams. This year she's rolled out landlord licensing. She's increased our buybacks of council homes to at some points being one a day. And she is also escalating the building of new social housing. I'm pleased to appoint as Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Youth Services, Councillor Emma Daniel. She has been responsible for leading our work on the new Borg strategy, our trans inclusion toolkit, and the establishment of Rainbow Lodge, bringing children with complex needs back to the city to be closer to their family and friends. In the year ahead, she's going to be focusing on our short breaks provision, home to school transport, and investing more in our own provision of SEND and SEMH support. In the new role as Cabinet Member for Customer Services and Public Realm, I'm pleased to appoint Councillor Jacob Allen. This new role will focus on transforming the look and feel of the city. You may call it the Woodingdeanification of Brighton and Hove, and being responsive to our residents in his customer service role. I'm pleased to appoint as Cabinet Member for Sports, Recreation and Libraries, Councillor Alan Robbins. He has got to work on the King Alfred restoration the new leisure centre that will be built on the King Alfred site, I should say, as well as a much wider strategy of sports development and investment in our sports infrastructure across the city, including a new swimming pool at Whitdean. He is also responsible for new playgrounds and outdoor gyms and looking after our trees and our grass. I'm pleased to appoint as Cabinet Member for Culture, Heritage and Tourism, Councillor Birgit Miller, and I'm very pleased to welcome her back after her illness over the last year. She's already got to work with a huge amount of enthusiasm and energy, and I look forward to seeing what she's going to do in the year ahead. I'm pleased to appoint as well as Cabinet Advisor on Community Safety, Councillor Andrei Cholak, as Cabinet Advisor on Devolution and Local Government Reorganisation, Councillor John Hewitt, as Cabinet Advisor on Homelessness, Councillor Paul Nan, and as Cabinet Advisor on Procurement and Contract Management, Councillor Joy Robinson.
Thank you, Councillor Sankey. Does Council agree to note the report?
Agree.
Item 11 concerns the report on the review of Member Allowances Scheme 2024 to 2028. I will now call on Councillor Sankey to introduce the item and move their amendment on behalf of the Labour Group. The amendment can be found at Addendum 3. Councillor Sankey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel following their review of Members' Allowances Scheme undertaken in March this year. The independent panel is made up of individuals not connected or employed by the council who are guided by regulations which establish the framework for members' allowances. Last year, the independent panel produced a new members' allowances scheme for the first for 5 years, which was intended and timed to align with the introduction of the new cabinet system. This was approved at annual council last year, together with a recommendation to undertake a further review of the scheme once the cabinet system had been in operation for at least 6 months. Today's report is the outcome of that further review. As set out in the report, the independent panel conducted a survey of all members and held one-to-one and group meetings with members in order to review the operation of the scheme and to enable members to reflect on the allowances as applied to our new system of governance. The recommendations from the panel are contained in the report and in Appendix 1. The scheme that was agreed last year incorporated an increase in the basic allowance to all members in recognition of the volume of work being a ward councillor entails, and noting the freeze in this allowance which members agreed over the previous 2 years. In this latest review, the independent panel have not proposed further changes to the basic allowance payable to all members. As a reminder, there is an annual uplift to the basic allowance that is built into the scheme at the same rate as it is applied to staff. Once that figure is settled, it will be applied to the basic allowance for all members backdated to May 2025. As part of this year's review, the independent panel have reviewed all special responsibility allowances paid under the scheme. They have recommended one change, which is for an increase in the special responsibility allowance payable to cabinet members to reflect the increased level of time commitment and also the complexity and overall impact of the role. The panel concluded during their review that the role of a cabinet member carries more responsibility than of a previous committee chair, as it includes significant delegated decision-making responsibilities and individual accountability. The panel have benchmarked their recommendations against comparable councils. I am personally supportive of this change that the independent panel have recommended, as I see day in, day out, the extent of the dedication and huge amount of work of the cabinet members as they fulfil these important roles. At this point, I'll turn to the Labour Group amendment. Our amendment is a cost-neutral one that seeks to recognise the significant role of the chief whip of the largest party, as very many councils already do. In order to ensure no additional cost is incurred, our amendment proposes an equivalent reduction in the SRA allowance payable to the Mayor. The proposed reduction in the SRA for the Mayor is made in order to achieve a cost-neutral position for the budget of our amendment. As we have heard and seen already this evening, the Mayor provides an incredible role championing the city and its communities, and I have every confidence that this will continue to be the case this year with you as our Madam Mayor, Councillor Grimshaw. However, we do feel strongly that the role of the Chief Whip is important to recognise as a special responsibility because of the significant role the Chief Whip of the largest party plays in supporting council business. As amended, I believe the scheme is fair and proportionate. There were important changes that were agreed by full council last year relating to childcare allowances to ensure these reflect the reality of the cost of childcare and specialist care, and also the adoption of a parental leave policy, which I'm proud of. These key changes all remain in place and are all aimed at producing a fairer scheme and preventing barriers to those who wish to stand for election. As I have publicly stated previously, I believe strongly that to achieve representation from councillors who truly reflect the diversity of our city in all its forms, we need to support a fair allowance scheme. This is not a salary and members are not employees. The scheme clearly recognises that all members are expected to freely volunteer their time in significant part, but a fair scheme will ensure that those who wish to stand as councillors are not prevented from doing so, and in turn will ensure a better council, better decisions and better representation for the city we serve. Madam Mayor, I move the recommendations in the report and the Labour Group amendment as set out in the published papers.
Thank you, Councillor Sankey. I will now call on Councillor Robbins to second the amendment.
I formally second and reserve my right to speak. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Robbins. We'll now move to the general debate. I believe we've got Councillor West for the Greens wishing to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if you might hold the clock, I'll just say a couple of nice words about you becoming Mayor. I was one of the first to be able to congratulate you. You're absolutely made for the job. And I think you'll break the smileometer when you're out on bringing so much joy. That will really happen. The year will slip by very quickly, I can tell you that. So make the most of every day and look after Rob, and he'll look after you. Enjoy this and you'll be brilliant.
Thank you, Councillor.
You might want to put your fingers in the ear for the next bit because this is a bit more political. And you're politically neutral in that room. I have to say, you have to wonder if there's any point in consulting the independent remuneration panel the way that Labour picks and chooses from their recommendations. Labour members perhaps won't know this as they haven't been around that long, but the reason the IRP was first introduced was to stop the annual spectacle of councillors deciding their own allowances, which gave the public the impression of self-serving politicians acting like pigs at the trough. We now have a proposal from Labour to pay a position of chief whip, a role the IRP identified as party political. Of course, it's party political, as the role is just for the Labour Party and not one serving the whole council. Is the Labour Party in such peril, hemorrhaging so many members over the dreadful actions and policies of the current government, making people poorer and poorer, that they cannot afford to pay their own party officials? Greens don't have a whip, as we discuss matters in a civilised way, and we don't need an enforcer to scare us into conformity. The Mayor has considerable responsibilities as first citizen of the city and as Chair of the Council, chairing these large meetings and attending a heavy schedule of engagements, as the mayoral report earlier so well demonstrated. And the IRP rightly recognised the scale of this responsibility and the allowance it should attract. While they are choosing to hog year after year, perhaps Labour forget that the role of the Mayor is apolitical and is not part of the Labour administration. It is an office servicing the whole council and the whole city, and Labour need to understand and respect this distinction. There is absolutely no consultation taking place on this proposal. It's completely come out of the blue to us. It's highly inappropriate and disrespectful to the office, and we will not be supporting it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor West. Before I move to Councillor Hill, can I ask if any of our Conservative colleagues, right, Councillor McNair? Councillor McNair?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Surprise, surprise. Labour have decided to give their own senior councillors a substantial pay rise, and more importantly, have created a brand new paid position of Chief Whip. Councillors should be paid. It's important work, and we should attract people from all walks of life. But is it right that there should be pay increases in this economic climate? If there's one thing we've learned about Labour, is that they love a pay rise. Who wouldn't? Trouble is, all this spending on pay rises is leading to a big black hole for the nation's finances. Inflation is up, food costs are up, unemployment is rising, up 1% on last year for 16 to 24-year-olds. A rising number of schools are in deficit in Brighton because Labour have not funded the pay increases, meaning school budgets are being squeezed. Jobs are at serious risk. Schools are certainly not hiring. And yet somehow this council can find the money to fund higher pay rises for senior councillors and a new chief whip. We should be setting an example and urging wage restraint. How can senior councillors and a chief whip be seen to be getting pay rises when the residents we support are struggling? And now we see that the mayor will have a pay cut, a nice welcome to the job, to fund the political position of Labour's chief whip. That is, money is being taken from the city's first citizen, who spends much of their time reaching out to residents and building bridges across the city, to give to the person who keeps Labour councillors in check. We know where Labour's priorities lie, not with residents, but their own party discipline.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robbins, do you wish to speak? No, they're not, but we're rotating because we've got another Green and another Conservative. Do you prefer to wait?
Yeah, it's going to wait to respond. Yeah,
okay, that's fine. Councillor Hill?
Thank you. Yes. So I feel that Labour has failed to provide a clear explanation for why they feel that they know better than the independent remuneration panel, who heard their recommendations in the one-to-one workshops and other parts of the review, which included their ask for a special allowance for the chief whip, and the IRP flatly rejected it. Yes, this amendment is cost neutral, but why does Labour think that they believe better and that they know better than the IRP? As Councillor West emphasised, special responsibility allowances shouldn't be decided by the whims of councillors, but by an independent entity to ensure faith in the way that we use this scarce public money properly. I can appreciate the Labour group needs to give money to the Chief Whip, as their Chief Whip will have their work cut out keeping Labour councillors in line, and as the government continues to attack the most vulnerable members of our society and is nosediving in the polls, pandering to fascism. Now, I'm going to quote the IRP, where we can see mention from the Chief Whip and why essentially they don't believe it's correct. So they say that they spoke with many members about the Chief Whip, and they mentioned that there are London boroughs which do have an SRA, a special responsibility allowance for the Chief Whip, but they recommended that no special responsibility allowance should be payable for the roles of Deputy Leader of the Opposition and Chief Whip. That's something that I accept, despite the fact that I would be, if I felt differently, inclined to ask for the SRA for the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. And whilst I might want more information on that, it is ultimately right that we respect the decision of an independent body, rather than, as we heard, try and feed from this pig's trough, as Councillor West mentioned. And let's also hear what the IRP said about the mayoralty as well. Now, the role of mayor is highly visible across the council and continues to undertake a high number of civic engagement that raise the profile of the council, and this reflected in the current allowance. The panel was of the view that the mayoral allowance should continue to be at the same percentage as the leader's allowance, 30%. We would therefore recommend that the role of mayor be recognised as tier 6 and receive an allowance of £11,000.90, 30% of the leader's allowance. That is what the IRP has asked. This proposal would bring it down to 15%, so effectively halving it. That, to me, is trying to rearrange the goalpost to fit specifically party political purposes, and that is exactly the reasons why we are meant to have the IRP, is to stop this kind of thing from happening. So I'd ask that people, particularly those members who've previously been mayor and who recognise the role that that mayoralty provides and the importance of having money to help that individual to be able to carry out that role, to reconsider this proposal and reflect on the error that it contains. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. I now call upon Councillor Meadows.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This Labour administration keeps telling us and residents there's no money, except when it comes around to their own allowances. Cabinet members should be very happy, as they will receive a 14.3 increase this year. This is despite them keep talking about deficits in budgets, blaming others, other governments, when it's their own Labour government who doesn't increase the council's allocation. The average wage in Brighton Hove is 23,500, yet they have increased their pay by 14.3% at a time when everyone else is struggling, and who will be struggling even more when the Labour government's tax rises kick in their pay. And I only heard a few hours ago that the Labour administration are putting forward a new allowance for Chief Whip for the administration. The large allowances that Cabinet members receive is hard enough to swallow, given their 14.3% increase in the special responsibility allowances. However, there is an element of service to the public in those roles. But to ignore the advice of the independent remuneration panel and to go against their recommendation to fund a party political post that will only serve the Labour Party is, in my opinion, gross misuse of local taxpayers' money. But the biggest kicker of all, Madam Mayor, is to take that new Labour Party allowance from the Mayor's allowance, someone who I believe in their role does more for the city than a political post will. They are devaluing the local mayoralty in favour and anticipation of the elected mayors of Sussex. We will be voting against this pay rise, as we don't believe they are worth it, and I wonder if residents will think they are worth it too. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows. Can I now move to Councillor Oliveira, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to see you on that chair. I think you've been blessed today. The light shining on you. So, esteemed councillors, it's with utter disappointment that I see, and I really get the hard work of members. Okay, you know that I get the hard work. But I know that deep down, some of you might be very uneasy to know that out there are people, especially disabled people, who are facing cuts to their benefit coming from the top. There are people who spend the winter freezing because they had the winter allowance cut. Yeah. And overseas, there are children who do not have their food because cuts to foreign aid has been made. I studied, and I'm not afraid to stand as a one lonely voice, but I cannot really believe that deep down some of my colleagues think this is a good decision. Do you?
Thank you, Councillor Oliveira. Councillor Robbins, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. And let me congratulate you before I get involved in this and say how pleased I am and how well deserved it is. And I think you have the potential to make the second best mayor that Portslade, Brighton, Hove and Portslade have ever had. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the amendment and the amendment to the members' allowance scheme that reduces the allowance from the mayor from 30 to 15% of the leader's allowance, and will introduce a 15% of the leader's allowance as a SRA to the chief whip of the administration. I believe this is long overdue. It won't cost the council a penny, and it's been the case up and down the country for many years. The whip's role is often dismissed, and we've heard it tonight, as an enforcer, practised in the dark arts, threatening to expose miscreants as Crystal Palace supporters, or secret Daily Mail readers, or even heavy metal fans. The truth is, it's only a small part of the job. After all, we're all members of the same party. We share the same beliefs, the same values. And whilst we do have disagreements, it is rare that these cannot be resolved amicably. What a much greater role for the whip is a more pastoral role, and it will see them offer support and help at difficult times, maybe through illness, bereavement, or breakup in a relationship. The Greens have already made the point that they're not whipped, and they say this is a great thing. So let's take a look where this road leads. As my old friend and colleague Warren Morgan once put it seems fine in free-thinking opposition, but soon becomes unmanageable in governance. With no help or guidance, one Green councillor was quoted as saying of a veteran parade, "The paid killers are back on the streets." Another Green councillor joined the street protest to save a city centre tree, just weeks after she herself had voted to chop it down to make way for a new cycle lane. The same councillor then sought the assistance of the Labour group to hoist the Green leader as the leader of the council. By now, what was known as the mangoes and the watermelons were no longer talking to each other. So they employed a mediator to bring the warring parties together. How much must that have cost? One local paper billboard, and this is a bit of a visual joke, but I'll try it with just order. One local paper billboard poster read, "Council calls in councillors to council councillors." And that was councillors SELORS and councillors CEL. So, I've listened to everybody talk, and again, I was unclear of the Conservative point, which seemed to be saying we must accept the RPA guidance when not paying the chief whip, but we should reject it when they recommend paying the members of the cabinet. I've said too much, haven't I? Shall I sit down? All right, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robbins. Councillor Sankey, do you wish to respond to the debate?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And I thank members for their contributions, but I must say they are rather disappointing. I think the first thing I want to address is something that was referenced in this debate but came up earlier today, which is this idea that the Labour Party is proposing too many councillors for the mayoralty. The position is actually such that we apply the proportionality principle for all of our appointments in this council, whether it's outside bodies, whether it's committees, whether it's for the mayoralty. And if you apply the proportionality principle to the mayoralty, the Labour Party has such a large group that the mayoralty would rotate around our group for the 4-year term. So I just want to make that really clear. We're not doing anything different. We're not doing anything unusual. We are applying the proportionality principle to the mayoralty. And I'm very pleased that we have Councillor Amanda Grimshaw as our mayor for this year and Councillor Ty Goddard as our deputy mayor. And I do think that it comes across as sour grapes from the Green Party not to accept that and be able to give them their fulsome support. And I want to thank the Conservative Party for supporting our mayor and our deputy mayor this afternoon. Now, to the principle of the IRP report, again, disappointment really in the Green Party approach, this kind of cynical, divisive, pigs in the trough. I mean, this is really lowering the quality of the debate here in the chamber. We are accepting the IRP's recommendation on cabinet member allowances, and something I should have probably pointed out at the outset. One of the reasons for this recommendation from the IRP is that our cabinet member allowances are set much lower than they are on average around the country. So on average around the country, cabinet members' SRAs are set at between 40 to 50% of the leader's SRA, and we were currently at 35%, and so proposing a very modest uplift to 40%. I am absolutely certain that if you applied the cabinet member SRA to the hours worked by my cabinet members, none of them are even close to earning the living wage. So I think this is a very, very modest proposal. And to the proposal around the chief whip, I would say this, again, it's an incredibly modest proposal. If you look at authorities around the country, from Bristol to London authorities to Liverpool, the chief whip SRA is much higher than what we're proposing. As I said at the outset, the Chief Whip undertakes incredibly important council business, both pastoral and ensuring that we get our business through. I am proud to belong to a party that believes in party discipline. We stand collectively on a manifesto, and we believe in the principle of collectivism, individual actions to build the collective good. If you don't have a chief whip, as the Green Party found out in their first term in this council between 2011 and 2015, you end up begging the then leader of the Labour group, Warren Morgan, to whip his councillors in support of your budget. So it's a very, very important role to keep this council moving forward. And I'm really proud to put forward both the recommendation and the amendment this evening.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I will now put the amendment to the vote. Can I ask for a show of hands, please? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? I confirm that the amendment has been carried as amended. I can confirm that the amendment has been carried, and I will now put the recommendations as amended to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations as amended, can you please show your hands? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? I can confirm that the recommendations as amended have been carried. The next item on the agenda, item 12, is the report of the Chief Executive on the allocation of seats between political groups, the appointments of chairs, deputy chairs and opposition spokespersons to the various committees. The report also sets out the proposed membership of the various outside bodies, panels, boards and partnerships. We will now move to a general debate. I believe for our first speaker we have Councillor Shanks.
We do have an amendment, Madam Mayor, which we asked you to accept. Do you want me to read it out?
Councillor Shanks, I understand that you wish to move an amendment from the floor relating to this item, the review of political balance. The deadline for the amendment has passed and I'm not minded to accept a late amendment. I do understand that the final report was published today at 12 p.m. However, I also know that you've been made aware of calculations in the report for some weeks. The detailed calculations were shared directly with you, as well as being presented formally at Leaders Group, and there was also our whips meeting this week, where you could have raised your wish to move an amendment. Therefore, I'm going to proceed to the general debate. The Green Group will have the first speaker and will be able to make, of course, to any points that you wish to make. Councillor Shanks, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Despite some of the rather nasty sniping we've experienced tonight, and when the history of the Green Group on Brighton and Hove City Council comes to be written, I might write it myself. We'd be able to set some of those records straight, maybe. But I mean, in the spirit of collaboration, we would have hoped that you might accept our amendment, even though obviously the majority of the Labour Group means that it's unlikely to be passed. We're just concerned, really, that it feels to us, and I'm sure to members of other groups and none, that we are not getting a fair share in terms of being able to put forward our ideas, some of which might not be so wrong. You know, we have had some good ideas in the past, and I'm sure we'll do in the future. So there is a democratic deficit in this. It does say in the report that Labour is won over on their allocation, and that normally the majority group gets the extra one. This, in the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, which is sadly absent, so I don't know why I'm asking for that, actually. But if you did consider that, it would have been good to give us an extra seat, perhaps on scrutiny, because scrutiny is very important in the cabinet system. We've been asking for a review of the cabinet system, which also seems to have gone, we don't know where, because actually this cabinet system was brought in. Obviously, you have a majority, could bring in a cabinet system. But it isn't working, certainly for opposition groups. I'm sure it's working in some ways, but it's also not working for many residents and for the trade union sector. So I think it's important that we have a say in scrutiny, and having just one seat on the place scrutiny, what we wanted to do in our amendment was to increase that to 2 places. That would obviously give us a majority. In some councils, actually, scrutiny is actually chaired by the opposition. And, you know, so that you can, because the whole idea is to scrutinise the work of the administration. And we're not really being given the opportunity to do that. We've lost our political system, we've lost our deputy leaders, you know, and obviously that's very sad for us. And I'm sure your violins are playing hard. But in another couple of years, you may be in a similar position and you may think, well, actually, it would have been quite nice if we'd had a few more people on scrutiny. So we'd ask you to not agree to this review of political balance. Obviously, we can't move our amendments. What we would have said is we would like to have the extra place, which is actually allocated at the moment to the largest party, to the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shanks. Would any of our Conservative members like to speak? Independents? No. Can I move to Councillor Taylor, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome to the seat. It's great to see you there. I'll keep it simple because indeed it is relatively simple. The first thing to say is that these allocation of seats are calculated and determined and recommended by officers, by the Chief Monitoring Officer, who sits as independent from the administration and makes these calculations and recommendations. We heard with great moral haughtiness from Councillor West and Councillor Hill that we must follow the recommendations of the independent panel on remuneration. And then in the next breath, they say we must ignore recommendations of our independent monitoring officer and indeed the independent calculations that are made all over the country in exactly the same way. And I'll talk you through them very briefly, which is that the way the calculations are made is you look at the total seats on the council and the total seats of each group, and you make that into a percentage. You then apply that percentage to the 63 seats that are available on the various committees. And that's set out in paragraph 3.5 in the report. Where there is a number that is not a whole number, you round up or you round down. And so if you're less than 0.5, you round down. If you're above 0.5, you round up. And that's what's resulted in the table that's set out, which is that there are 9.33 seats allocated to the Green Party, which is rounded down to 9. For the Conservatives, it's 5.83, and that's rounded up to 6. And so on for the Brighton Independent Group, 2.33 rounded down to 2. That rounding can result in a spare seat, and that's what's happened in this situation, as set out in common practice in every council in the country and indeed in regulation, where there is a spare seat, it is allocated to the largest party. That's what's happened every year in this council for many decades and in every other council in the country. The Greens are simply saying, well, we just want another one. Well, the Brighton Hove Independents could equally ask at 2.33 councillors, can we have another one? Officers have simply allocated according to how it's always been done, and therefore that's a recommendation of the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just fail to understand the mathematics here, because when you actually look at that report, there are fractions of a seat attributed to various parties and independent members, and the Labour Party is on a whole number. So I cannot see in any way how the Labour Party gets an extra seat when collectively, with all those fractions of a seat between them, all the other members in this chamber don't get an extra seat between them for us to choose between us who gets it. This is robbery. That's the maths there. And I'm sorry if the officers have come to the conclusion that that's the way it should be, but I haven't yet heard a justification for that, and I'm not hearing it from the Labour Party.
Thank you, Councillor West. I've noted your comments and we will move on. I move that item 12, together with its appendices, be approved. Does the council agree? Yes. Item 13, which is our final item, concerns the future of St Joseph's School. I will call on Councillor Taylor to introduce the item. Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 13th of November last year, the governing body and the Catholic Diocese of Arundel and Brighton published a proposal to close St Joseph's Catholic Primary School with effect from August 2025. This proposal was formally consulted on from the 3rd of November 2024 to the 17th of January 2025. Following that consultation, the governing body and the diocese decided to proceed with the proposal to close the school and publish statutory notices. It's worth reiterating that the proposal has come from the governing body themselves and the diocese. However, under our constitution, full council must have the final say on whether we agree with what the governing body and the diocese have proposed. I think it's probably appropriate to quote directly from the final proposal document issued by the diocese. It said, the city is seeing a significant decline in the number of children seeking a school place. School funding is primarily determined by the number of children on roll, and falling rolls equate to reduced funding to deliver education. While primary school rolls are falling, but the number of schools remains unchanged, there is effectively less financial resource across all the schools. This is because many costs are driven by the number of classes in a school, whereas funding levels are driven by the number of pupils. It goes on to say the school has been consistently undersubscribed in recent years. Preferences for the school have fallen in the last few years. The school has been undersubscribed in each of the last 7 years, with pupil numbers falling short of the school's published admission number each year. This means it will become increasingly difficult for the school to remain financially viable and to provide good outcomes for pupils. At the end of October 2024, St Joseph's Catholic Primary School had 149 pupils on roll against a capacity of 210 places, a 29% surplus. In February of this year, following the consultation, there were 96 pupils on roll, which is a 51% surplus in places. The diocese acknowledged that there were a number of alternative proposals put forward in the consultation, which focused on how to keep the school open. The diocese concluded that these submissions, and I quote, were about mitigating the low pupil numbers through collapsing classes, increasing numbers in the nursery, greater collaboration with parishes and other Catholic schools, and funded SEN support provision being made available. The diocese concluded that proposals did not specifically address how the school could seek to improve the levels of parental preference sufficient to fill the school's capacity. The diocese's view was that a medium to long-term strategy to maintain the school with a reduced number of pupils on site was not a viable approach, particularly as pupil numbers are still expected to fall in future years. I want to draw members' attention to section 3.15 of the report, which makes clear that there is sufficient capacity within the primary sector in the city to accommodate all pupils currently at St Joseph's. The report also makes clear that there are 6 other Catholic primary schools in the city, including St Mary Magdalene's, which is the closest Catholic school with remaining places for September, and as the report indicates, has 34 places across the school. I also want to reassure members that the council is working closely with the school on the transition process and has implemented a team around the school approach to facilitate coordination with professionals already working with the school. The transition process for pupils with EHCPs and those in the application process has commenced since Easter. To support families during this transition, bi-weekly meetings have been established. Finally, Madam Mayor, I want to acknowledge what a sad day this is for everybody involved with the school. A school is not just a building where children learn, it's more than that. It's a community, it's a support network, and it's part of a shared history within an area. I know that the diocese and the governing body have not taken this decision lightly. I want to send my heartfelt thanks to all the staff that have worked at St Joseph's and who have made such a huge contribution to educating and caring for our children in the city. I also want to reaffirm the commitment of the City Council to support parents, pupils and staff through the remainder of this process. Madam Mayor, given the context and the evidence that has been set out by the diocese and the governing body, I ask that members agree to allow the diocese to proceed with this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. We'll now move to the general debate. I believe Councillor Goldsmith would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations. Closing any school is something I'm sure none of us take any joy in whatsoever. Regardless of circumstances, any closure undoubtedly leaves a dent in the community it's served, as is made evident by the sad responses to the consultation. We as a group have strongly opposed previous school closures this administration has carried out, but as Councillor Taylor notes, this one is under very different circumstances. Whereas before, governing bodies strongly opposed closures, this time the request for closure is coming from the school itself. And I feel it would simply be unworkable for us to force a school to stay open when it's not wished to do so. So I do feel that we have no other choice but to support this closure. We recognise that students, parents and carers and staff will be directly affected by this decision, and we hope the council will do all that it can to support staff into new roles and ensure the transition between schools is as painless as possible for students and their families. I was pleased to hear Councillor Taylor notes those with special educational needs and disabilities, as I know often they end up getting overlooked, so I'm glad to hear that the support will be given to them, and I hope we will see further details on how they will ensure that this transition process is as smooth as possible.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if any of our Conservative colleagues would like to speak? Councillor Meadows.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is a sad day today as we consider this school closure. We sympathise with parents who see a school with a good rating from Ofsted and they trust their child's teachers and like the smaller class sizes. We all understand that. We hear you. However, we also understand the dilemma for school governors who will not have taken this decision lightly. The school's budget will be in deficit this year as national tax hikes from this Labour government come into play. That will be quite onerous on school budgets. We hope all transitions for each child will be handled with care, as falling pupil numbers for 7 years has had a profound impact on school budgets for the school. It's not sustainable. Because of this, Catholic Church have, alongside governors, taken the decision to close. But even though it is primarily a decision for the Church, it still has to ask permission, if you will, from the Council. It is a formal decision. So, Madam Mayor, for all of these reasons, we will be abstaining on this item. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Meadows. Can I now move to Councillor Begin, please?
Lovely. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations on attaining the seat of Mayor. We look forward to a wonderful year with you in that role. Councillor Taylor has read through the report from the diocese, and I think it's very clear on why the school is closing and why the governors and the diocese have had to take this decision. as a school governor for 17 years myself, it's not an easy decision to take to close a school and a primary school which serves the community. But I think, again, on that matter, the rationale for that is clear. And unfortunately, I agree with the decision itself. What I did want to raise, and again, I'm glad Councillor Taylor read the Dice's report because it doesn't refer to this. The report doesn't refer to a reduction in demand for Catholic education. The officer's report refers to a reduction in demand for Catholic education. And that's the thing I have an issue with, because I don't think that is correct. As a governor of Cardinal Newman, I can confirm that the school is oversubscribed, and this is a living proof that there is no reduction of demand for Catholic education in Brighton and Hove. I challenge both the general premise and the specific context presented in the officer's report on the demand for Catholic education in general. While it is acknowledged that there has been a demographic dip in primary-aged children in some areas of Brighton and Hove, the assertion that this has led to a reduction in demand for Catholic education is not universally supported by evidence. Demand for Catholic education may not be fully captured in enrollment figures if families are unaware of their options. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beguine. Can I move to Councillor Shanks, please?
Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, as we've heard, we see that this is the diocese decision, and apparently they also own the building, so there's nothing that we can recommend about that. I am concerned that we're seeing an increasing number of schools closing and we're leaving with empty buildings, and I would like to see proposals brought forward for those schools that were left that actually the council own, like Homewood. I think it is obviously never a good thing for children to move schools if, unless there are particularly reasons for that. And so the parents have expressed their unhappiness about that. I just think this will happen throughout the country, really, because of the way that funding for schools is done and because the demands on school spending, that we're going to see smaller schools everywhere, not just in Brighton and Hove, having to close. And that is sad, because for many children, a small school suits them better, whether it's a secondary or a primary school. So I would like to see this pressure brought on this government to look at school funding properly, because it is really in a parlour state when schools can't afford to keep going. And, hopefully our colleagues here in the Labour group will put pressure on their government to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shanks. I move to Councillor Oliveira.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a very sad state of affair. I understand the premises and understand that it's the way we have to go. However, I think as the only councillor currently sit on this chamber today now from holiday in 5 ways, I think it's a sad day for parents, for families. It's a sad day for the whole ecosystem of the community. So I will have to vote against it. However, I understand the premises and what the administration is trying to do with diocese. However, I cannot support the thinking of the family, the children, and the whole ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliveira. Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to formally second the paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So I will now ask Councillor Taylor, do you wish to respond to the debate? Sorry, Councillor.
No problem. Just briefly, Madam Mayor, I want to thank all councillors for their thoughtful contributions on what is a difficult issue, and as many have said, a sad day for the school and the community. Just to respond to a few specific points. To Councillor Goldsmith on transition, transition is obviously really important. I think the council are working really hard to make that transition successful for each pupil. I'm aware that given it's a Catholic school, that there is intake from quite a wide range of wards, and so if councillors have parents or children in their wards that reach out to them, please do come to myself and officers, and we will obviously respond and help with transition. And indeed, if opposition councillors want to be updated on the overall transition in the weeks and months ahead, I'm happy to provide information on that transition. Councillor Beguine, I understand what you're saying about demand for Catholic education. And as you say, Cardinal Newman, one of the great success stories of the diocese and the city, one of the most popular schools in the whole of England, would certainly demonstrate there is strong demand for Catholic education. In mild defence of officers, I think what they're technically trying to say is that
the number of preferences for a number of Catholic schools have fallen. That doesn't mean, as you say, there is less demand overall for certain Catholic schools, but it is true that the number of preferences following the demographic changes has fallen, and that's the situation the diocese face. To Councillor Shanks on empty buildings for other institutions have closed. Yes, there are active plans on a number of them, and we will see developments come forward relatively shortly on the use of those buildings. And I agree with Councillor D'Oliveira that it is a sad day for parents and for staff for an institution that has a very long history. But in conclusion, Madam Mayor, I think it's the right thing to do to support the diocese proposal on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. I will now put the recommendations to the vote. Can I ask for a show of hands? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That concludes the business before us today, and I would like to thank you all very much for attending. And I now declare the meeting closed. But I would just like to add, please, if you'd like to pop into the chattery, we're having a very, very small, short gathering, but you're very welcome. Thank you.